Hello, my name is George Hanshaw. I'm the e-learning director for Los Angeles Pacific University in San Dimas, California. I remember exactly where I was the day that I learned the Berlin Wall fell. I was serving the United States Air Force at Clark Air Base, Philippines, and we were just finished with a huge exercise where we launched every single F-4 we had. I always wanted to be a fighter pilot, but I did not realize that dream. I enlisted in the United States Air Force instead while I was in high school. So my research breaks the wall of mobile higher education that creates a greater sense of connectedness and better outcomes for mobile students. So we know that mobile education is a way to reach more people in their world and really embrace their experiences. So to do this in a meaningful way that creates that sense of connectedness and better outcomes for the students, I knew that we had to reimagine learning and assessment through that mobile lens. So we started with a simple question from our university president. If you become stranded on a deserted island with a smartphone and good bandwidth, can you finish your degree? So the question is very simple, yet is radical. My approach was to frame this question from the perspective of experience. What type of learning experience would foster better outcomes and a greater sense of connectedness? So starting with defining the student experience is what really broke the wall. So when we design from the experience, we innovate. When we innovate, the concrete in that wall transforms into a bridge really quickly. So here's a concrete example. For many years, content was king. What I mean by that is learning was often a transfer of knowledge. Now in the mobile world, how students consume content and demonstrate their mastery matters the most. This simple paradigm shift to content consumption and display of mastery opened the door to quick and effective innovations in the world of mobile higher education. Well, it all starts with the experience and defining the experience for the course, the experience we want the student to have. This simple paradigm shift to how students consume content and demonstrate mastery of content gave us really that space to innovate. The innovation is reimagining the learning experience from a mobile lens and then using multiple tools, theories, concepts, strategies to create learning experience that foster a greater sense of connectedness and better student outcomes. So we reimagined learning and learning design from a mobile learning perspective, and then we worked backwards to create the tools that fit that learning experience. So we prototyped, tested, and talked to people, determined what worked, what didn't work. And interestingly enough, we found that a sense of connectedness and technology is interwoven throughout better outcomes and intrinsic motivation to learn. So technology and creating that connectedness is an expectation of our learners. So after our prototyping and talking with people and testing, here's what our basic approach is. Identify the type of experience you want to have the student to have. Walk backwards through the course. So walk backwards through that experience, then use technology. We use a chatbot with learning capabilities in every single course. We also use interactive content within our courses because students expect interactive content from that mobile device. And then build from a perspective of adult learning with a splash of gaming theory. Learning components, immediate feedback, listening, transferable skills, competencies, and their development are just two examples to do this with. So designed to allow students to also share their experiences and connect their experiences to the new content. This is a great opportunity where we can utilize micro-learning and multiple encoding strategies such as visual, semantic, personal relevance encoding, and then creative assessment. So this project is the initial pebble in the pond that I like to think of. It's starting those concentric circles that will touch a broader society. The ability to bring higher education learning experience that focus on connectedness and student engagement with the content, the learning experience, you can have larger implications on society. When we feel a connection with others, we tend to seek understanding rather than judge one another. Well, there's many questions left unanswered. Whenever we answer one question, several other questions emerge. So one of the questions is, how do we design courses to directly increase a student's sense of connectedness even outside of the university? This is a huge question because now more than ever, people feel socially isolated, and that's really counterintuitive because people are always connected, but their feeling of connectedness is less. How do we in higher education design mobile learning that combats this? As far as how my mom would see this, she would get a good laugh out of this because I was in my earlier years of education, I was not the most willing student to be there, so she would get a good laugh that I am deeply ingrained in education at this point and doing my best to make a difference. My son, I bounce ideas off of him all the time, so hopefully he's enjoying that process and he thinks that it's kind of awesome.